Right, just wanted to do a real quick video on something that I think is going to help out a lot of people with the stability in their fifth wheel. I'm at the front of my fifth wheel, obviously. These are the front landing gear, as you can probably tell. And the thing that's probably different on this one than everybody else's is these metal tubes that I got hanging down right here from the front. So this is actually a stabilization system that I came up with after looking at a couple of other examples or commercial examples on YouTube and just for sale around the internet, what have you. Except this is much more, I guess, cheaper design. At least for me, it was. So this is actually a just a couple pieces of EMT conduit. That's metal conduit that you can get at Lowe's or Home Depot or just about any other big box store. And this here is a piece of 3/4 inch EMT conduit, and this is a piece of 1/2 inch EMT conduit. And they just slide back and forth in the 1/2 inch slides into the 3/4 inch, and it just makes for a nice little telescoping type of deal that whenever you release this friction fitted knobby here, it just allows it to slide back and forth freely. So all in all, this little system cost me about, I want to say $30, if that, in pieces, and maybe a little bit more in time, if you count in labor costs and whatnot. But if you can probably tell, it just consists essentially of some, I believe this is 2x2 1/4 inch angle that I cut into pieces. This one here I just bolted through into the other side of the landing gear, and that single bolt with a locking washer keeps it in place. And this is the center bracket where they both meet up. Now, this is essentially what causes it to be so stable. And obviously I can't show you how stable it is by rocking on the camper in this video because, well, I'm holding the camera and I don't have any other means to hold it up. But for $30 and about an hour of your time making this thing, the difference is well worthwhile. I can tell you that whenever I put this thing together, and prior to getting this thing integrated, well, even right now, I could essentially loosen up those clamps or the little knobby things on either side, and I could shake the camper back and forth pretty easily. With this thing on there though, it is very solid. I mean, you can't hardly budge the thing with just these two knobs tightened down together and this system in place. So just a little continuance of the description, this is another piece of 2x2 angle, and it's actually bolted up into, I don't know if you can get it here, probably, hope you guys can see that. That's just bolted up into the trailer frame, and the one over there in the other landing gear is exactly similar to what I had over here. I believe these are 5/16 bolts and with lock washers, and the only difference in between the ones I got on the end and the ones that I got, well, I guess right here, it's kind of dirty, you can't really see it very well, sorry about that. You just have to take my word for it if you don't trust me. Those are Nylog, whatever you want to call them, the Nylock washers. Or, sorry, Nylock bolts. They have the nylon on the inside of them to make them stay, essentially, instead of having the lock washers. So that allows me to put them on there a certain distance and then keep them at that distance. And that allows this here to slide freely. Now, this piece of 1/2 inch EMT conduit is essentially, I just took and flattened this piece down here with a hammer to give me a flat surface to drill through and put a bolt through. And I did the same thing with this 3/4 inch EMT conduit here. And this was, prior to me having a good bench vise that I could actually crush these things in, or a press, and now I have access to both. So if I had to do this over again, it'd be much simpler than me just taking a hammer and a piece of board, whacking it on the concrete and getting it free. But it does show that you can actually do this with some simple hand tools. Obviously the cutting of the 2x2 angle is going to be a little challenging for some folks, but it can still be done with a hacksaw or angle grinder or something along those lines. Or you can, just go to a scrapyard and get them to cut it for you. Whatever. These knobbies here I got off Amazon, and they're just bolt through knobbies. I don't know if you guys can see that bolt through there. It just has a recess in the knob for the head, and at the time I didn't have a welder. I just got a buddy to tack these nuts onto here, and I got a hole through the middle, and these literally just screw in or thread into that bolt that's welded onto there, and it creates a pretty tight friction fit against the 1/2 inch tubing that's inside. I think it's a fairly simple design, and just from looking at the picture you probably get fairly easily how this thing goes together. And like I said, there are commercial systems out there that do essentially the same thing for a couple $100. I think $300 or $400 if I recall correctly. But for $30, like I said earlier, $30 and some of your time, if you can make a similar system that works for you, then I think you'll be well ahead monetarily and in just overall stability for your fifth wheel. So just one last shot here, and if anybody has any questions on how this thing was put together, please just post them in the comments, and I'll try to get back to them as soon as I can.